political uncertainty. Investors aren't the only ones worried by an Egyptian stock market that has seen some 124 billion Egyptian pounds wiped from its value since January. The exchange's EGX30 main index currently sits at 4,774 points, its lowest level in 2.5 years, reflecting a mix of domestic uncertainty and worries over the global economy. Similarly, volumes of trade have been heavily cut, with traded value down to 100 million Egyptian pounds from 1.6 billion pounds 8 months ago. The Egyptian exchange was forced to close for 2 months after foreign investors exited their positions in the Egyptian companies. Experts say that despite the crisis, their comeback will depend on the length of the transitional period and future economic policy going forward. The ruling military council will hand over power after parliamentary elections expected later this year and a subsequent presidential vote. Outflows of nearly $2 billion led to a net decline, in sharp contrast to strong inflows at the end of 2010. Foreign direct investment in Egypt fell 124% in the first quarter of 2011 against the final quarter of the previous year, according to the latest figure released by the Central Bank of Egypt. The main explanation of the decline is Egypt's widespread political upheaval during the first quarter of 2011, when the revolution forced longtime President Hosni Mubarak out of office. However, the head of the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development was optimistic about Egypt's ability to lure foreign investments back as soon as stability is restored.
Thank you for joining us on the Daily Debate. We're on the second segment, and as you've seen in this report, the Egyptian stock market has suffered deep blows, one after the other, that culminated in the recent Egyptian-Israeli tension, which took its toll on the stock market indexes, as well as before that, the European and American debt crises. But the question lies right now, how can we look ahead at the Egyptian stock market, and how can we look ahead at the economy as a whole? Stock market is just a mirror, it's just a forecast of how people see the future of the economy. That's why we're hosting tonight a business figure and an economic figure. I'm very much honored to welcome Dr. Mustafa Ibrahim, member of the American Chamber of Commerce. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
And Mr. Mohamed El-Alfy, he's an economic expert. He's an economic advisor as well. You'll be taking a huge chunk of the share of talking about our Egyptian economy in this edition. But first, Dr. Mustafa Ibrahim, as a businessman, I'm sure that once in a while you've been an investor in the stock market, or you've been related to working as an investor in the stock market at some point or the other. How do you see the outlook for stocks in Egypt? Are we into a trough that hasn't found an end yet, or is it overrated? What exactly is your vision?
For you to come to a conclusion about the future, you have to see what's happening as we speak now. The share market, or the economy in general, is facing two pressures. One is internal pressure and one external pressure. As you mentioned, we are facing also pressure from the debts for the States and for Europe, which put a lot of pressure on the share market, because most of the investor has to liquidate their position and move it back to their countries to cover their losses there. At the same time, the situation, the economic situation in Egypt at this stage, it's very unstable, very unclear. It's a little bit foggy at this stage. This type of climate doesn't help at all for people to make a decision for the future. As we stand now, as most of the expertise would expect, that we are still into the middle area, where you find a lot of fluctuation in the share market during the period of the month, or the year, or the coming few months. But the expectation is that we will see this trend for at least 3-4 months, until we see at least a vision or a roadmap for the economy for the next 12 months. Before that, I think we'll see some kind of small and little bit high fluctuation, no more than that.
From what you're saying, it sounds like you are extending a relation between the Egyptian stock market and the whole world, and events that all over the world which may affect the stock market, which I believe Mr. El-Alfy will differ with you in this, because before we came into the studio, you were saying something on the grounds that we're not really related to what happens in the outside world. So I just need to get this clear. Do you agree to what Dr. Mustafa said?
What happened in Egypt is not related to what happens outside Egypt, because most of the companies here in the stock market, it's local companies, and we are not in a competition with the other share market outside Egypt. Also. Our stock market facing a real crisis, because I think there is no professional brains leading this organization.
You're talking about the stock market itself or the regulator?
No, the regulator. And also the companies work in this field is not giving real information to the investors.
The brokers, you mean?
Yes, the brokers. It's not giving real information to the investor. So we have a collapse here between the administration of the stock market and between the companies and the victims, all the small investors.
But if we're looking at what Dr. Mustafa said right now, it's a matter of a foreign investor liquidating his portfolio in order to cover up for losses abroad. This drives most of the stock market, which is, by the way, composed mainly of individual investors and individual speculators, to sell their stocks as well. And this is what really makes the whole index go down.
I think we have a central fund. He should go directly to buy the direct sale of the foreign investors to save this market to fall down. But unfortunately, this central fund is not working as well as we know. And if we will go to the general economy, and now the general economy in Egypt is not in a professional hands too. We need at this time, we have to fight the unemployment, for example. And as Dr. Mustafa said, we need a roadmap for the next 12 months. But I need a roadmap for the next 5 years at least. Now we are at this time, we need national projects to give the trust in the Egyptian economy. At the same time, we'll give a trust to the Egyptian stock market.
Well, we have had our share of mega projects, of national projects. Some of them right now are considered the total loss. So I'm not really sure. Is this how
like what? Like what?
Like, for example, the Toshka project.
No.
Like, for example, the
Toshka is not a successful project.
A classic story called Abu Tartur, the phosphate project in the middle of the desert, where right now railway lines have been out of order for some time. I mean, this was a project since the days of late President Gamal Abdel Nasser. We're talking also about Sinai, which has sprung into the events recently. We had a national project for Sinai as well. So do we need a new national project, or should we mend and fix the old national projects in order to find somewhere, somehow to benefit from them?
If we will talk about Toshka or about Abu Tartur, most of the experts, they said all these not successful projects.
But
long time. But the governments, the ex-governments insist to go directly to activate these projects. But we need not a new, for example, as you mentioned, Sinai. We need Sinai should be we should build Sinai, or we can establish a new project as a capital city of Egypt, new capital city of Egypt. It can be done. This project.
Do you have the funds to do that when most of your budget goes to pay government taxes, debt service, and other strong commitments that you have each and every year? With only 1/4 of your budget for every other thing, like education, like whatever.
Yes. For example, if you will talk about what is the costly in this project, as we will talk about the main infrastructure. The main infrastructure, it can be BOT projects, and many companies all over the world will come to be in this huge project. It can be.
Right. Dr. Mustafa, do you agree to the fact that we need mega projects to steer this economy, or to drive it back into life? Or
no, I totally disagree with that, at least at this stage. You have to see the economy. I mean, our economy has totally different features than most of the other economy. For us, I mean, you have to know one main element of our economy. that for us to catch up with our to have a supply and demand saturation or equal, we need another 10 years because we have shortage in housing, shortage in hospitals, shortage in schools. We import about 70% of our food. For us to come to an equal point of supply and demand, we need at least 10 years. You cannot if you talk to someone who has at least a little bit of background in economy and tell him we live on 5% of our land and we have a big portion or a portion of our population live in sewage areas and cemetery, and we have in our banks about 1 trillion pounds of deposits, and most of our new generation sitting on the coffee shops having shisha. That all this combination doesn't make sense. We have to work and to restructure our economy based on that. We have all the elements. We have money, we have the land, we have the demand, we have the manpower, but we need to manage all of that to have a better outcome. And the programs we are talking about, all these ideas about mega project didn't work before. And there is no reason to believe that it will work tomorrow. You have to use all our resources, which we have a lot of them, and recycle them into the society to get the best out of it. Otherwise, we'll be talking and investing in something we don't know. It's like, again, speculating in big projects.
So you're talking about invigorating investment. Are you talking about local investment or foreign direct investment?
Look.
And if you mean foreign direct investment, can we really count on it after all the debt crisis that are gripping our major investors right now?
We have to have a view. In any countries, there is a combination of both local investors and foreign investors, because we need both of them, and because they stimulate each other. But in our case here, we have already 1,000 million, which is £1 trillion deposited in the banks. A good portion of them can be used to recycle in the market to generate new jobs and new ideas. And there is a big demand for that. The best
portion of them are used in the safest investment ever, which is government bonds.
The bonds. But still, there is a reasonable portion can be used to create jobs. The only thing you need is the ability to make the decision and the vision. That's it.
How do we attract investment, Mr. Alfy? You're an economic expert. You advise companies on this. Is this economy, does it invoke trust and confidence among foreign or local investors at this time?
Unfortunately, at this time, it's difficult to attract the foreign investors, especially because we are in a case of chaos on the ground directly, and the chaos also in the other countries in the Middle East. And as you know, they would like to, the foreign investors need stability, looking for stability, not for instability. So at least it should be a huge project to attract them. It should be a huge project.
But in this case, is it only local, or are there instabilities abroad as well? That's actually my question. Right now, after the debt crisis in Europe, followed by threats to the United States not being able to honor its debt, but at some stage they said that they will never default on their debts. Can we count really on our classic investment partners?
In my last visit to Europe, during the crisis, most of the foreign investors need new channels outside Europe, to invest outside Europe, not inside Europe. And I think we have a chance if we will provide a new projects or open a new channels for investment to attract them. But unfortunately, we don't have, until now, our government didn't provide a political and economic vision for the next 5 years or 10 years.
Because it's a transitional government, or for any other reason?
No, because they can't provide, not because it's a transition government. They can't provide. As I see, our government member is not a professional people. And I said many times, this government, if we will continue until next February or March, we will face a real crisis on the ground. Yes, and really, I'm asking them now directly to submit them resignation directly for this nation. We are not ready to face a new crisis in the next months.
Well, I would like to build on this a little bit, because in the middle of the crisis, in the middle of all the chaotic scenes and scenes of non-confidence, I found a huge electric appliance giant coming in to invest millions of dollars in buying a local company, because they can see the future of this country. So how can we expand this picture a bit more? What do we need to do?
Look, you are always put more exposure on the success stories. That's one thing. But by the end of the day, I a little bit disagree about how we can manage our future investment. I believe we have to go east. East means China, Russia, India, and most of the Far East countries, and maybe Turkey. Because these countries they have a big population and deep pocket. And they can be a buyer and investors. They have the vision, they have the money, and they have the ability to go in joint venture with you at this stage. Most of the Europeans and the Americans are a little bit consumed at this stage, at least with their own problems. They have fire on their backyards. It's not easy for them to make a decision. Maybe some of them might see that it's better to invest outside this trouble area like in Egypt at this stage. But I believe the most attractive opportunity for us is to go east.
But our Far Eastern neighbors are busy themselves trying to figure out a way how to salvage their American assets, for example.
That's one story. Look, they have like China. China will be as most of the expertise assumed or believe it will be the first world economy in the vicinity of 5 years. They have deep pocket. They have about $2 trillion in foreign investment, especially in the American bonds, and they still have a big appetite for big markets. They want to go into big markets. They want to secure their own source of energy and raw material. We can do that with them. China is full of materials which can be suitable for their own needs. I think if you go with some partnership with these countries, we have better chance to build our country and to have a short period of recovery than just relying on our former partners like US and the Europeans.
So if you disagree to the fact that you don't want to attract them to mega projects like Mr. El-Alfy was saying, what do you want to attract them to, and what do you want to attract local investors to do?
Look, there is a lot of we don't have to talk to mega project. Mega project needs a lot of study. You are talking about 1 or 2 or 3 years. And that's we don't have this time to talk about it. But you have to talk about small to medium sized factories and investment. Something between $5 to $50 million will be suitable to most companies, and it will be more suitable for our needs at this stage. If you are talking about mega project, you need to at least feasibility study will need 2 years. I believe that the market and the people they don't have the stomach to wait another 2 years.
Right. Mr. El-Alfy, right now, looking at currencies, looking at commodities, what would you advise investors to invest in at this current stage? Should they trust the Egyptian pound, the dollar? Should they lose their trust to the dollar and shift to the euro, to the sterling? What exactly is the picture when it comes to storage of value? Let me call it storage of value.
I think it's difficult in this case all over the world to tell them trust euros, trust sterling pound, trust gold. You need to achieve on the ground, for example, we will talk here locally, a real project to tell your people and the other investors, to attract them to trust your economy first, before they will trust your currency. And for example, we need in Egypt, we'll concentrate about Egypt, we need to build a new economy based on knowledge. For example, how many science parks we have in Egypt? That is the real future of Egypt. We have to build many science parks. So we need to build a new economy based on knowledge.
I can see the difference between you two gentlemen is that Dr. Mustafa is looking for immediate solutions and you're looking for interim or rather medium-term to long-term solutions. But can't we find a combination between both of you two?
If you allow me, my point of view is that the economy now is bleeding. You cannot operate on someone who is bleeding. You have to stop the bleed and then operate. And that's exactly our stage at this stage in Egypt. We are bleeding badly. So for us, to fix the problem, talking about long-term solution, that might be we don't have time to do that. But we are talking about we have to stop the bleed, find a quick fix, and then talk about go to the next stage. But if you talk about the second stage before talking about the first stage, by that time it might be too late, too little, too late.
And the same question goes for you. You're a businessman. Would you right now? Where would you put your savings? Would you?
If you have, I'll put 1/3 of my saving in real estate. 1/3 of my my saving in currency, a combination between foreign currency and Egyptian pound, because Egyptian pound give me better rates, and the third portion will be in gold.
Which foreign currency?
I would assume dollar and euro.
You would still trust the dollar, though?
Both. You cannot because the fluctuation between both of them is just on a daily basis. If you are talking about long-term investment, you have to carry both.
Aren't you a bit skeptic that the gold had hit its maximums over and over? Aren't you a bit skeptic that the theory of the greatest fool, this person who comes to buy at the highest price?
You are right in that, but at the same time, that what we have at this stage, we are seeing an increase in price on a daily basis. That might be a crash later on. That might be another story or another view, which has been a lot of merit. But at the same time, as we see it today, if you go into gold for at least 6 months, I think it will be a safe bet. Because the good thing about it, it carries its value and it's easy to liquidate.
Right. Gold, again, the question for you, is gold a good option right now? Are we hitting its highs and we're going to be watching or witnessing a correction sometime soon?
Gold is for today, but for the next months, no one knows what is next. To tell the people trust gold or oil, for example, or euros or sterling pound, for example, because there is you can't tell the people real information in a case when there is chaos all over the world. That is depend on the gains. Now we see. For example, the NATO in Libya and in other places all over the world. That is rely on the political and the economic gains achieved by the Western countries to tell the people trust this economy and trust the currency of this or that country.
With less than a minute left for us here, I'd like to direct one question to both of you, gentlemen. Now that the Libyan problem is about to be solved or is close to be solved, do you believe that it's going to be just a matter of a few months before Egyptians who came back from Libya, and they were a huge number, would go back again? Let me start by you, Mr. Alfy.
I think within 6 months, after 6 months exactly.
Dr. Mustafa?
I believe, yes, that will be huge demand to rebuild the whole country. Because Egyptian labor is well known in Libya. They trust them, and they've been working hand in hand for the last 20, 30 years. So I think we have a very good chance for the labor to move back to Libya and to be a source of our foreign currency to make our foreign currency balance a little bit healthy.
Dr. Mustafa Ibrahim, member of the American Chamber of Commerce, thank you very much for joining us
Thanks
here
for having me.
on the Daily Debate. And Mr. Mohamed El-Alfy, an economic expert, good luck in your new enterprise later on that we've heard about. Thank you very much for joining us. And special thanks as well to the classic Egyptian TV fly that has accompanied us all over the... Yes, she's very persistent as well. I'm Tamer Nasser signing off. Good night.